A modern city with traditional Southern values.
I underestimated how far he was going to go. What he was willing to do.
Visit the historic French Ward and enjoy local cuisine at one of our 5-star restaurants.
We are here at E3 hanging out in the wonderful 2K area, and we're talking with the lead writer of Mafia 3. You have done a phenomenal job by the looks of it. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect.
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. So Mafia 3, really, one of our big foundational pillars of the game is to maintain what fans of the previous Mafia games loved. So that's a deep, rich narrative, it's cinematic, but it's also about taking what we call a gifted anti-hero and placing them within a specific time and place in American history. So in Mafia 2, that was Vito Scaletta, and now it's Lincoln Clay in 1968 in New Bordeaux, which is a fictionalized version of New Orleans.
That is something that's very, very key as soon as it obviously starts up, is that it's 1960s and it's down south. It gives you a lot to play with. How did you go about creating this living, breathing city?
So we really went across the game, and this isn't just narrative, but it's also art and also even the cars. We really strove to maintain a level of authenticity, so that everything feels like it's from, it's evocative of that era and time. So it just involved a lot of research. Narratively, it was everything from watching documentaries about, like, say, the civil rights movement, reading interviews with prominent people like Jim Brown, who played football for the Cleveland Browns, gave an interview in Playboy in 1968, and he talks about his experience as an African-American in the South and, interaction with the police. And on the art side, it was, we got old Sears catalogs from eBay, and you flip through them, and you see that kind of come up, like in the demo, you see Burke's amazing shirt, so, it's just it really captures that time.
It's interesting you bring those things up, because one of the big things that came across in the presentation we saw was there's a very diverse cast of very diverse areas down south, and I'm sure they interact in special ways.
Yeah, so it's capturing, New Orleans, the real city, is a very diverse city. It always has been because of its kind of geographical location within the United States at the mouth of the Mississippi River. So we really want to capture that. That manifests itself within the city. You have things like the French Ward, which is obviously our version of the French Quarter. An area like Delray Hollow, which is predominantly African American. That's where Lincoln grew up. Lincoln's from. And then an area like Frisco Fields, which is basically the rich white area with mansions and stuff. But like you said, it also manifests in the characters. Like Cassandra is, she's the leader of the Haitian gang. So there's a very strong African American presence there. Vito gets sent down at the end of Mafia 2, so he's not there by choice. So it's just this cool, very diverse city that we really want to represent, both within the city itself, but also within the characters. And we really work to give each district its own individual flavor, not only in terms of like the pedestrians you see on the street, but also the crime rackets. So like the crime rackets in the French Ward, that's where people go to party. So it's drugs and prostitution. In a section of the city like downtown, that's where the city government is. So that's about extortion and bribery and things like that. So there is a difference, obviously in the civilian life, but we also really work to make sure that the rackets also represented that specific part of the city as well. Mafia 3 it has a true open world, which is the first for the franchise. And those rackets, they were created with a specific narrative intent. They're not just random. Like, they all tie into Marcano's organization in some way. The mob is a hierarchy. So if you go after the guy at the bottom, he kicks up to the guy above him, who kicks up to the guy above him, and eventually you get the notice. The important people, quote unquote, take notice. So that's a big part of it. But you can approach those in any way. So in the demo, we show you going after this guy named Oscar. It's possible that in taking down that racket, a player may not even go after him. They could do there's other ways to bring down that racket, and you can do those in any order.
And when you take over these rackets in these districts and placing your underbosses in, do you get certain benefits with others than you wouldn't with others and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's to me, that's the interesting thing of the sit-downs, is it's this potential conflict between character and rewards. So like a Mafia 2 player may say, I really like Vito, So I want to give everything to Vito. But as they go through the sit down, Burke, he can give you bulletproof tires for your car. He can give you the ability to call off the cops. So it's up to the player to kind of weigh that, say, well, on one level it's character versus reward, but it's also potentially even reward versus reward, because Vito has the hit squad. So maybe instead of the bulletproof tires, you want the hit squad. So there's those decisions the player has to make along the way.
What a sad, miserable fool I am for ever believing in you.
And one of the things that popped up as well was one of the gangs was a white supremacist group. How did you go about balancing the effects of this?
So we do show, we're talking about too much because it's a big narrative spoiler and their importance in the game. But again, it goes back to just making sure that the game is authentic. So if it's something that happened in the 1960s, 1968 in real world New Orleans or the United States, is something that we really strove to capture. And the great thing about Lincoln as a character is that and the city as well, is that it provides a nice window for the player to take have a glimpse into that world and kind of walk through it.
It's time for them to pay. This city belongs to me.